My name is Mano. I'm a developer advocate for Google's Geo APIs. I'm the lead developer advocate. That means I get to go around the world and talk to people like you, which I think is the best job in the world. I really do. I have a great, I love my job. Anyway, I just want to note I feel a little bit like Madonna when I have this microphone set up on here, but do not expect or want me to sing because you don't want that. Okay, so I'm going to talk to you today about the Google Places API, and the Google Places API. Well, I'll go through it. I've got a whole thing here. Feel free to interrupt me with questions. If I don't want to be interrupted, I'll just ignore you. But I don't mind questions. So I wanted to just place the Places API in context. So we have a whole family of Geo APIs. These are just some of the kinds of things that we have. And you'll notice fusion tables, that's the talk I'm going to do next after the Places API. We're going to be talking today about the Maps API v3 and web services, specifically the Places API within our web services. So that's just to put a little bit of a context where we are at. So before we go any further, I want to talk about this concept of a place, because in English, at least, I don't know how it is in Czech, but the word place means a lot of different things. There are dozens, maybe over 100 definitions of the word place. So let's start thinking about what that actually means, and we started thinking about it when we were trying to define what the Places API was. We're basically talking about anything that can be geolocated, anything that could be, you could put a point on a map and say, this is where this is. And this is the kind of thing that people want to search for. So it goes from the kind of abstract concepts to the very concrete. And I'm going to actually go the other way, from concrete to the abstract. This is a little bit like that, the 3D video, the Earth that we saw. Anyway, never mind. But we're in this room here where we're in the Tech Talk track. That's where they put everything else that didn't have its own full track. But this is a place, right? This room right here. But we're also at the Clarion Congress Hotel. We are in Prague. We are in the Czech Republic. We are in Europe. We could go further. We're on the world. All these things are places, right? And where you use the concept of where you are, it's sort of where you are kind of helps you think about how you actually talk about where you are. So when people in the US ask me where I am right now, I might say I'm in Prague or I'm in Europe. If somebody were to ask me if I had a friend who was in Prague, which I do, if you were to ask me where I was, I would say I'm at the Clarion Congress Hotel. If I had a friend who was at this conference at Google Developer Day, I would say I'm in the Tech Talk room. I'm in, Kepler and Tycho and Kepler. So these are all places, but where you are and who you're talking to really gets you, the context of what you're in really gets you to think about how you actually describe where you are. And here's just sort of a graphical version of that. There's, here we're in the Czech Republic, and we're in Prague, and we're at the Clarion Congress Hotel. All these things are separate places within where we are right now. Okay. So context. So let's talk for a moment about Google Places. How many of you have done searches on maps.google.com? Or CZ, whatever, CZ. You might have seen something like this page, right? You do a search on maps and you do a search for a hotel or something like that, and you click on more information, and you get a page that looks like this. And what we're trying to do with this is we're trying to give more than just location, right? When Google Maps started, we thought, we'll have a great way for people to search for addresses and driving directions. And then developers found the API, and the next 6 years were all about, oh my God, we have all this great geographic data that people were putting on the web, on web pages. But what we started to do was we started to be able to collect information about where things were, because you told us where they were. Right? We were able to pick it up from KML files. There are over 1 billion KML files on the web right now. We take all those things together, we aggregate them, we cluster them, right? Billion KML files, there's a lot of overlap. There's Wikipedia pages that have geolocation in them. There's businesses that tell us where they are because they want people to know where they are so that when they do a search, we can accurately locate them. So we collected all these, and we have millions of places, giant database of places. We refresh this index constantly. We also have data providers that we license directly. We ask them, they give us data that we use on maps. And you see, we have information that we've aggregated over that time, and we've things like photos of the place. We have categories for the place. We have nearby transit, reviews, and in this case, you can even book a stay at the Clarion Congress Hotel. And we noticed, too, that when we released this mobile application, people got really excited because they could then search locally for what's around them on their Android devices. And we provide that same information through these different interfaces. And we want you to be able to do the same thing for your applications. By the way, for those of you who are trying to track me, I'm sorry, I kind of wander around a lot while I talk. I apologize about that. So in order to do your applications, here we are at the Google Places API. So let's talk about the different components that there are. Here, this is just another slide that emphasizes this context. Things that are around you, right? We noticed that people, with the explosion of mobile devices, people wanted to be able to search for what's around them. And they do that a lot more on a mobile device than they do even on their desktops, right? And we have information on these mobile devices about our actual location. We have GPS, we have Wi-Fi, we have cell phone tower geolocation. All these things can give us a pretty accurate results of where we are. And it can actually even tell us what the accuracy is of where we are. So we wanted to give people the ability to serve that data to their customers, to the people who are using their applications. So here are some of the features of the Places API. We allow you to find things, and we allow you to find them by category. We have over 126 categories right now, and we're gonna keep adding them as we develop them. 126 categories of different types of locations in your area. We also introduced this Autocomplete API that allows you to do as little typing as possible, to find things around you. I'm going to go into this in a bit more detail later, but it allows you to find things that are around you with minimal typing, which on mobile devices is very important. We also have the ability for you to do check-ins. I'm going to talk about that a little bit more, but basically sending signals to Google about where your users are. And we have the ability for you to add and delete places from the Places API and have them be useful to you immediately. Now, there are two methods to access the Places API. We have some of the features integrated directly into the Google Maps API in the Places library. And then we have a separate web services which gives you access to all the features of the Places API. So let's talk first about the Places library. It's actually the flashiest part of the demo because I can do it more easily. So the first thing it allows us, the basic feature here is searching for places nearby. Now you'll see here, I've got a little map of Prague, and I'm searching actually, when I click on here, it triggers an event around the click that says find within a certain radius all the university schools that are university and type establishment. And this is basically what we get back. We get a bunch of JSON that tells us about the location. So you'll see here, a piece of that, there is a geometry here. Right now, the only kind of geometries we support are point geometries. But it gives us, latitude and longitude. It gives us an icon that we can use, the basic Google icon, or you'll see I actually ignored it and used a custom icon because we had universities, a little graduation cap. That's what it looks like in the US when you graduate. And then it has an ID, it has a name, it has a reference, and then it tells you the different types for that individual, that location. It also tells you some other information, gives you the vicinity. It's within the vicinity of these addresses, and then where the listing came from. So if it came from one of our data providers, it gives you the actual origin of that data. Okay, let's take a look a little bit more. This is how you actually make the request. You create a request object, and then you start a places service. So you just you load this library, Google Maps places service, and then you assign it to the map. And then your service, you initiate a search, and then you pass in a request and a callback. So the request is this object saying, from the map center, give me within a radius of 1,000 meters all university type places. And then that callback gets triggered when the places service actually responds. And basically, it does this. It adds markers to the map. And here again, we also have a listener. We added a listener to the map that triggers the same thing, but instead of using the map center, it does the click location. The next feature I want to talk about is Autocomplete. So Autocomplete allows us to do some, bad HTML5. It allows us to do some autocomplete, basically allows you to start typing, and we'll start presenting you with options. So if I start typing here, I start typing PR, sorry, my we seem to have shifted off the screen there. If I start typing PR, you'll see that I get Prague, naturally. We're centered on Prague, so it's going to give me results that are actually relevant to where I'm going, where I am. So if I type in, say, San Francisco, I can click on San Francisco, and it jumps to San Francisco. And then I can actually start doing searches. You'll see it drops in places in San Francisco. Now, if I start typing PR here, I'm going to get a different result. Now, this is because it's contextually relevant. We're saying to the service, give us the autocomplete, but give it to us with results that are more relevant to the place where I actually start, that I'm actually looking at. So, yes?
Small question. How are they sorted the places? There are too many answers or possible results. How are they sorted?
That's a good question. So the question is, how do we sort based on, how do we sort when there's lots of things that could possibly be the correct answer? Well, there's a custom algorithm that we have for doing the sorting based on this kind of place rank. It's not the official name of it for it, but this kind of place rank for our for places. So we basically sort on a number of different signals. If you're typing in something that seems like it might be the name of a city or state, that's going to be a pretty high place rank. Something that there's a lot of signals telling us that this is a place in that location, so we're very confident that there's something actually there, then that's going to get a higher place rank. Sure. And I'm going to talk to you, when I talk to you about check-in, I'm going to talk about one other thing that comes along with that. And then you can see that I can actually sort these by the autocomplete by type as well. So here we are. I'm doing some search on there, and I'm getting restaurants and lodging. And just to show you that we then also give you a link to the place page that Google has, so you can get more details from it there. I'm going to see if I can fix this problem here. Sorry. I want to figure out why it's not showing up on the... Oh, we're still getting some... No, it's not right on the computer either, though it is when I'm not connected to it. Well, my apologies. We'll figure that out. I'm going to post these slides to both my Twitter stream and my Google+, so if you want to get them later. So this is basically what it looks like here. So we create a new autocomplete object and assign it to, new autocomplete object and assign it to an element in the DOM. And then here we are adding an event listener which autocompletes, it loads in the autocomplete object on the place change event, and then we have a function that shows that selected place when you actually click on it. So to get the autocomplete, all you need to do is this first part, create this autocomplete element and assign it to this element by the ID. If you want to actually do something when you get there, you add this listener, and then it goes to that, and you put the, you recenter the map, or you do whatever you're going to do. Okay, so let's talk about the web services aspect of this. So the web services aspect allows you to directly access our data API from your application. So you don't actually need a Google Map using the JavaScript to actually get it. Although if you want to display it, we encourage you to put it on a Google Map. Our terms allow you to actually display it in a separate box as long as you attribute the locations to us. Okay, so and you can see that it's actually just part of a number of different web services that we have. So these are the different kinds of requests that you can do from the API. You can do places search, which you've seen already. You can do a detail request, which is once you get a place that's returned, you can actually request more details about it. We can do check-ins, add and delete, and autocomplete. Okay, so as I mentioned, these are, we've got the 126 different types you can do the search on. We allow you to do up to 100,000 requests per day, as long as you register a developer key in the developer console. So it's interesting, the response to that, a lot of people think 100,000 sounds really big, and then a number of large applications say that sounds really small. So we're actually keeping it at a rate that we consider to be low, because we are still in a new period with the Places API. We're still testing it out and seeing how people are using it. But 100,000 gives you enough that you can build an application on it. And if you really need to, in the forums, you can request some additional access. Yes?
Small question. The request means request or result? If one request got 1,000 results?
No, it's a request. It's not a result. Right. Yeah, so it's 100,000 requests. So 100,000 times that you ping our web service and say, give me this, this result. We allow you a small number, I think it's 1,000 per day, free from through the API if you don't register a developer key, but if you do it, you do register the developer key, then you can get 100,000. And as you can see, you get this detailed information about the place, and basically what you do is you get back a JSON object. And I'm going to show you, actually, I think I have an example of a request later on. But we also have a check-in process. So how many of you use a check-in application like Foursquare or Facebook or Gowalla, Latitude, something like that? Okay. Oh, good. A lot of people here. So what we've done is we've created a way for you to have a check-in application through our Places API that doesn't involve us knowing anything about your user. Basically, all you do is you tell us every time somebody goes to a place, they do a check-in, it's totally anonymous, we don't track any results, and then it actually affects in real time your search for places. So if you have an app that uses our Places search and you've registered this developer key, whenever somebody checks in to that location for your application, that place then kind of bumps up into the search results. So but it's targeted only for your application. And then it gradually sort of decays over time. If people stop checking into a location, then that place stops coming up in quite as high in the search results until it goes back to our standard search results. So why do we do this? Well, say Jeffrey here is making a application that searches for bars, and I make an application, because I'm very holy, I make an application that searches for churches. Now, I don't want his bars to come up higher in my search results just because a lot of people use his app, because I want to send my people to the right churches in the area. So I make that sort of facetiously, but the other reason that we do that is so that people can't spam the results. So Jeffrey, being, a diligent person, would never write an application that would spam results to try and get certain search results higher for everyone. But there are people who might do that. So for these two reasons, we allow you to tell us about a place, get this check-in, and then improve the search results so that people who are using the same application, maybe their friends, are also looking for the same spots. They get the same results.
Can you turn that off?
Yes.
Or does it always work?
Well, there's really you can turn it off by just not using the check-in part of the application. So this is just what it looks like. The generic form is you do a post HTTPS to this URL. You see check-in highlighted there, and you add in a Places reference. And this is a very long Places reference that goes off the screen. That's the more specific way that you do it. So as you can see, no user data is passed to us. We don't want to know who your users are for your application. You can, if you want to manage that on your own, that's entirely up to you. This is just for a service for you to be able to see what, to improve search results for your application. We also give you a way to tell us where, to give us place reports. So if you want to add a place to make it available for your application, say your user goes to a place and it's not in our search results. That does happen. There are millions of places around the world, probably hundreds of millions, thousands, I don't know. There's lots of places around the world that keep opening and closing. Something like 20% of businesses in the US open or close or move within a year. I don't know how that is here. So, we give you a way to add in places or delete places from your own search results. So these place reports are then immediately available for your application. So this is basically what it looks like for adding. You basically say, you do a post, and you post to a URL, you post in an XML or JSON format, and then you post information about that place that you've got. So you see here there is the location, so latitude and longitude, and then also an accuracy. So that's basically like if somebody's using a mobile phone, what the mobile phone says the accuracy of their location actually is. So they're checking in, they're saying, I'm checking in here. If it says it's within 50 meters or 150 meters, that's what you put there. And then you give it a name, some types, and language, any of the data points that we have, then you pass that in. So in this case, we're adding a mythical place, Google Shoes. Google's not actually entering the shoe market right now. If we were, I wouldn't be able to talk about it. And then you give it a type store, and then the name is in English. Did you have a question? Yes.
The accuracy is in meters, or it's some value? Or
the accuracy is in meters, yes. So any mobile device where you are where you're doing a search on your location, it's going to give you back an accuracy within meters. And then the delete actually works very easily. I don't have a code sample on it, but it's just you post the reference to the delete URL. And then what happens is we take that under advisement. We basically take the place that you've added and we create a separate data store for your application. And then as your users continue to search, that place will be put into your search results or removed if you deleted it. But it won't be put in for anybody else until we send it through our standard moderation process. So you're basically giving us information that we'll then be able to say, whenever we actually get around to moderating it, which could take a few weeks, it might be then become available to the general population. Yes?
Can I add some more data?
Yeah, there's a few other data points that you can add in to the location. Yeah, there's a few other data points. We look in the documentation what you can actually add. Yes?
Can I use custom data?
No, you can't use a custom data. So a lot of people want to use this as a custom places database. And what we suggest you do if you do that is that you maintain your own separate data store of places that have been added so that you can add in your own custom data. Yes?
Small question. Every place can have only one location, or can I set up some borders within they can check in, or is it just accuracy?
That's a good question. So the question is, can any place have multiple locations, or can you set up a boundary or a polygon that defines the place? At this point, each place only can have one point within a certain accuracy. And unfortunately, that's the way our data store is right now. This is one of the reasons for releasing it in labs, is to find out what people are interested in. And that's one of the things that a lot of people are interested in, is saying, you know, I want to put in multiple locations, or I want to put in multiple locations in the same place, multiple things in the same place. So we're looking at that as something that we might be able to add later. Yes?
Is there any support for multiple languages?
Yes. So we do support multiple languages, multiple character sets. Basically, you can put in places in UTF-8. I do not know why it keeps doing that. Somebody is controlling my projector. Yes, so you can put in things in Czech. You can put in things. That's, in fact, you see there we have a language tag that tells what language you're using to put in. The category names, or the types, are all in English, but any other information you can put in multiple languages. So, in fact, you might see the same location come up in different languages if we have that in different languages. Okay. This is actually a pretty short presentation, in part because we kind of ran over with the keynote, but also to give people a chance to talk to me about it later. Put up some information just sort of in general. Google Places, it's available through the Maps API JavaScript library, and also as a web service. Free location-based search on 125 plus categories of places, including filtering. Got 100,000 requests a day. You can do an API report, adding and deleting. And then you get the benefit of additional places that other people are using for their application. And we provide this check-in service. Real-time check-in, which affects your search results. And the autocomplete. So I'm going to post this to my Twitter stream and my Google Places profile, which are actually on here. Oh, looks like I said thank you in Russian. I used this slide last in Russia. But you can follow me on Google Plus or Twitter, and if you want to see these slides again, I'll pull them up. Any other questions? Okay. All right, great. So, yes?
After I add the places via API,
Mm-hmm.
can the owner manage it later, like himself?
Can the owner manage it later? Yes.
Pictures, whatever.
Right, so we have, one of the things that we have with Google Places is the ability for owners to claim a place. It's a more manual process because we want to do some identity verification. So there's a postcard involved, and they have to call back or mail in something. So there's an actual physical verification on the places if you want to have an owner verified listing. And you'll see actually on Google Places when you'll actually see, we'll note if the place has been verified by the owner.
Do you do that by mail?
Yes, we do that by physical mail.
I was wondering.
Yeah. So a postcard, and then they have to send something back. SMS, mail, info, yeah. Okay. Any other questions? Yes?
Are there any future plans about the check-in functionality? Some social functions known from Foursquare, like Mayor or things like that?
Well, actually, what we wanted with the check-in was not to build those kind of applications, but to let you build those kind of applications. So the idea was you would build that, you manage your users and everything, and then we just, provide the search results, so that you don't have to maintain your own data store of places. All right. Well, thank you for coming. The next session in the geo world is going to be fusion tables. Feel free to come up and ask me questions after we're done. Thanks a lot.